Hey famous warrior, welcome back to our channel. My name is Louise Mupeta and I am here because I believe it is my calling to encourage and challenge you as you face this battle that we call life. If this is your first time here, that is what we are all about in this famous warrior community. It is a safe space just for you. Before we get into what is on my heart to share today, I would like to remind you to subscribe to the channel. If you haven't already, click that notification bell so that you don't miss any videos. For the Famous Warriors on Facebook, like and follow the Famous Warrior page to keep our content coming your way. Our Facebook and Instagram have daily posts to keep you encouraged and inspired throughout your week, so be sure to engage with us there as well. To get us started today, I would like to ask you a question. Have you ever felt like you are in a wilderness season? A season where it feels like God has forgotten all about you on the backside of the desert, and no matter how loudly you call to Him, He isn't coming to get you out of there. If your answer is yes, then I have some much needed encouragement and a little bit of a challenge for you today. So before we get into it, let's define what a wilderness season is, shall we? A wilderness season is when it feels like you are not being cultivated. You are staying stagnant while others seem to be moving forward, and you feel like you're not growing. A wilderness season can also be when it feels like you have entered into an inhospitable situation. This could be a relationship, a work environment, or a business sector. You thought the situation would be one thing, but then it ended up being completely different in the negative sense. A wilderness season is a season when it feels like you have been neglected or abandoned by God, which we know is not the case, but it just feels that way. Or maybe you feel like you've been neglected or abandoned by other significant figures in your life. A wilderness season could also be when it feels like you have been placed in a position of disfavor or discomfort for whatever the reason may be. And can we just keep it 100 for a second and agree that such seasons are the worst? We can't get out of them fast enough, and it does feel like God has abandoned us when we're in those spaces and phases. Before I get to the encouragement though, my challenge to you is this. Have you ever thought about your wilderness season as necessary for your preparation as a famous warrior? Being in a wilderness season is crappy but necessary. And the crappier thing about it is that if we don't recognize the season for what it is, we are at risk of going searching for the wrong things, like maybe the nearest and easiest escape route. And when we do this, instead of leaning into the season, we prolong our wilderness time. But the million-dollar question is, why? Why do we have to go through wilderness seasons in the first place? Like, why couldn't life just be springy and green and easygoing? Like, why do we have to go through this desert place to begin with? James 1:2-4 gives us the answer we love to hate, yet must learn to love. Consider it pure joy, my brothers and sisters, whenever you face trials of many kinds, because you know that the testing of your faith produces perseverance. Let that perseverance finish its work so that you may be mature and complete, not lacking anything. Before we unpack that, just keep that on a shelf. Keep it in the forefront of your mind. We'll get back to that later. But for now, I want to paint this picture for you. And I'm going to use my favorite animation of all time, which is Mulan. If you haven't watched it, you really should. In the movie, the country is challenged into a war by the villain of the plot, who is called Shan Yu. And the army goes on a recruitment exercise requiring every family to send one able-bodied male to represent the family in battle. But then Mulan is a girl child. Her father had no sons and was not able-bodied. So to save her father from being killed on the front lines, she disguises herself as a young man and reports for training. If you have watched this movie, you know that the recruits were taken into the wilderness for intensive training before they could join the rest of the army, and some of the best parts in the movie depict the rigorous training that they had to endure. Every recruit was failing in the beginning, like terribly failing, and some were even sent packing because they just couldn't cut it. But by the end of their training, a small group of recruits who passed the different challenges were ready to join the rest of the army and had formed some strong relationships along the way. This narrative, this picture from this movie depicts a pattern of warrior training that has happened for centuries. It's a pattern where there is a period of isolation for soldiers to go into the bush or the wilderness, whatever word you want to use, but there is this period of isolation, and this is done so that the soldiers can get a feel for the extremities of the elements that they will encounter when they are in an actual battle. But more than just being this intense field trip, this time in the bush is a crucial time of testing, training, preparing, and all the things for any and every bona fide warrior. This immersive training usually covers a survival skill curriculum, which is essentially Stone Age skills training, like building shelters from available materials, making fire without matches, locating water, identifying edible plants and fruits, making tools, hunting and trapping animals with primitive devices, and making protective clothing and blankets from animal skins and the like. So any aspiring soldier knows better than to look down on or begrudge their wilderness experience, because they know that those skills will be necessary for their survival when they are in real battle. After all this preparation in the wilderness or the bush or the secluded place, whatever term you want to use, I found it very interesting and necessary to mention that studies have shown that organizations have had great success rates when they organize 3 to 6 month long wilderness expeditions to help combat veterans heal from the mental scars of war and adjust back into civilian life. So they use the wilderness to prepare for war, and then when they come back from war, they use the wilderness to heal from the mental scars of war. I say all this to say that most natural things are a mirror image of spiritual things. Natural soldiers needing the natural wilderness to prepare for natural wars and also to heal from the natural mental wounds of war can be a mirror image of spiritual warriors needing a spiritual wilderness to prepare for spiritual wars and also to heal from spiritual wounds or to transition into new spiritual seasons. And I know I just lost some of you with all the times I said the word spiritual. So let me get you guys back. All I am talking about when I use the word spiritual are things about our spirits and our souls, as opposed to material or physical things. So whether you consider yourself a spiritual person or not, we all go through some version of difficult seasons. And as I mentioned in the beginning, the difference between those who make it stronger on the other side and those who don't is your perspective and your understanding. The soldier who esteems the wilderness exercise as necessary for their training and understands that it is temporary will fulfill his preparation requirements and have what he needs to operate in battle well. On the other hand, the soldier who detests the wilderness exercise, doesn't recognize it as an opportunity for growth, and takes the first exit that they can find will be ill prepared when war comes knocking. So how can we bring this natural and spiritual principle home into our own lives? I have 5 things that I want to share with you about what you can expect to get out of a wilderness season. And if you're like me, sometimes seeing the syllabus, seeing the learning outcomes beforehand can help keep us from complaining about the course, because we know what we will have the potential to get out of it on the other side. So for those people that are like that, here are the learning outcomes. The learning outcomes of a warrior's wilderness season are: the warrior will learn who they are. The warrior will toughen up. The warrior will kill some giants. The warrior will refine their relationships and sharpen their weapons. So let's unpack these one by one. What does this mean exactly? Okay, so number one, the warrior will learn who they are. From the time we were born, we are surrounded by people who lovingly tell us who we are and what they think that we can do. As we get older, we are surrounded by some people who are not so loving in their assessment and communication of who they think we are. These words, labels, and expectations tend to stick to us very strongly, and it's only by isolating us from our real world and taking us into a wilderness space that God can help us see who He created us to be. Psalms 139 verse 15 says, "My frame was not hidden from you when I was made in secret and skillfully wrought in the lowest parts of the earth." There was a time that I was reading this verse, and as I read it and meditated on it, I had the Lord say to me that He wanted to introduce me to myself, the real me, the me who He made in the secret place. Not the me that I was told that I am or the me that I had comfortably settled into, but the real me. And since that time, I've had this interesting experience of letting God reveal the Louise that He created, the Louise that He imagined and loved deeply in that secret place that He talks about. The amplified version of this verse puts it this way. It says, "My frame was not hidden from you when I was being formed in secret, and intricately and skillfully formed as if embroidered with many colors in the depths of the earth." There are many colors and layers to you that you know not of, and the only person who can show you is the one who put them there, the one who layered them and skillfully knit them together. That all by itself is a pretty good reason to endure any wilderness season and to even count it all joy, like James says that we should. But wait, there's more. Number two, toughening up. A warrior will toughen up in their wilderness season. So back to the animation Mulan, right? The girl, I love Mulan, but sheesh, the girl was clumsy and all over the place before her training. Like even the beginning of the movie, there's this scene where she goes to this lady who's supposed to train her to be very ladylike, which she needed, and she botches the entire thing, like disgracefully botches the entire thing. So yeah, the girl was clumsy and she needed help. But her training, the training that she had to endure when she was pretending to be a son and pretending to, be this male child that was preparing for this battle, that training toughened her up. She was actually one of the recruits who was sent home for not cutting it. Literally, like her bags were packed. She was told, just go home, like this is not working. But instead of going home, that night she reached down deep and pulled out some grit. From that night on, she was the fastest and the most dedicated recruit that there could be. All of us will go through things in life which look like they were made to break us. And if we don't understand that there is more grit inside of us, more that can be pulled out from the inside of us, then we will fold under the pressure. But those seasons or situations are not meant to break you. They were meant to toughen you up. They say what doesn't kill you makes you stronger, right? Sometimes the devil will throw things at you and his intention is to very well kill you. Like his plan is to take you out. He's not playing. His plan is not to injure you. His plan is not to put a dent in your life. His plan is to kill you. But during such times, I imagine God laughing because he knows what he put inside of you in the secret place. God is like, throw your best shot. Come on, I dare you. And see my son or my daughter throw it back 10 times harder. Allow the wilderness season to finish baking you. Don't try to get out of the fire half-baked because it will only make the next difficult situation all the more harder. The third thing is a warrior who endures their wilderness season will kill some giants. In the Bible, we have the story of David and Goliath. And it's a famous story. It's one we love because it gives you all the emotions. It has the drama and the action and it has everything. Like, it just makes us feel like, wow, God is awesome and he can use anybody. David was a shepherd boy who killed a wolf and a lion in the wilderness. When they tried to attack his father's sheep, he was like, no, that's not going to happen. My father has trusted me with these sheep, so I'm going to take you out. And he did. Then he faced Goliath, and by God's grace, he was able to kill that giant in front of both the Israelite army and the Philistine army. Sometimes we get tripped up by expecting our own story to match David's story. What do I mean by this? I mean that we expect our story to be scene for scene, the same as David. So we'll be in a season of obscurity, no one knows who we are, and the Lord is working on us, and we'll kill a wolf, and then we'll kill a giant behind the scenes. But then the Lord is going to open the way for us to face a Goliath. And when we face that Goliath, everybody is going to be watching us, and everybody is going to be cheering for us, and everyone is going to see what God was doing, the work that he was doing in us in that secret place. And sometimes that might be your story. Sometimes that will be the case. But the majority of us won't have that story. My story is that I've had to kill some wolves in seclusion, and I've had to kill some lions in seclusion. And then I had to kill some giants. Yep, still in seclusion. There was no one to cheer for me after. No one to bring out the confetti or the trumpets like they did for David, There was no reward, no tax exemption, nothing. Just me lying on the floor after fighting this giant, holding the head of the giant and asking God, like, can I just lay here? Can I just lay here for a week? Like, I'm done. That just took me out. I am done. Sometimes that might be your story. Actually, more times that might be your story. More than the times where you get to kill the giant in front of everybody. More than the times where God puts you up on this, stage or in the spotlight after a wilderness season. It just goes from one level of seclusion to another level of seclusion, and then to another level of seclusion. Your wilderness season might not have a bunch of people to cheer for you or to see the giants that you're slaying. This might all be happening. It's happening, but it's all happening in seclusion, in the wilderness season, just you by your own self. That doesn't mean that those victories are wasted. And I really believe that someone needs to hear this. Like, keep killing those giants and stacking those severed heads up, because God is keeping count. Some of you are killing some giants that your grandparents were meant to kill, but they got out of their wilderness season too quickly. Some of you are killing giants that your parents didn't kill. Maybe they injured the giant, but they didn't finish the job off. But if you don't kill it, if you don't take out that giant now, if you don't stay in your wilderness season long enough now to kill those giants, then you're leaving them for your siblings to kill. You're leaving them for your children to kill. And guess what? For as long as you don't kill that giant, it will keep coming after you. Never mind your siblings, never mind your children. That giant is going to keep coming for you. So I encourage you, just stay in that wilderness season, and like David, ask God to give you the grace to take out those giants, because one by one, they will stack up. One by one, they will amount to something. They will count for something, whether someone is seeing them or not. Number 4, refine relationships. So the warrior who does not quit, does not run away, does not take the first exit out of their wilderness season has the potential of refining their relationships. And nothing has the potential to show you who your real friends are more than a wilderness season. The thing will dry up a relationship in a heartbeat. Like being in the wilderness will tell you who your real friends are real quick. It will show you which friendships and which relationships were full of life in the first place and which ones were just superficial. A wilderness season will teach you more about yourself, like we said in the beginning. And because you are learning more about yourself, you will also be learning what you need around you. What people you need around you. What people you need to get out of your circle. This will help you reevaluate and refine your relationships. Some may need to be moved from the front to the back or to the side or just out, like completely out. And then others who have been in the back might need to be moved to the front row. God is the one who will show you, because as he shakes those things around, as he uses the dryness of the wilderness season to let things, get scaly and flake off, he'll put things back into place properly, the way they're supposed to be, the way you need them for your season of life right now. So don't avoid the wilderness because you want to hold on to relationships that don't serve you anymore. Don't leave the wilderness season and pick up all the relationships. Like, I imagine, my kids, when they dump their toys in the living room, or when they bring their stuffies, their stuffed animals into the living room, when you tell them to pick them up, they try to gather all of them. And it's like the funniest image of them, like these tiny little humans just surrounded by stuffies as they try to carry them. And I'm having that picture in my mind, God has shaken off some relationships off you. And it's about time now for you to get out of your wilderness season into the season that God has been preparing for you. And instead of you going into that season light and fresh and rejuvenated and refined and equipped and all the things, you're bending over to pick up all those stuffies that were supposed to have been left there. Like, don't carry them forward. Don't drag those relationships that were supposed to be left in the wilderness forward with you into your new season. Allow God to show you what needs to go, what needs to stay, what relationships need to grow, or what relationships need to change and how they need to change. Last but not least, number 5, the benefits of a warrior staying in their wilderness season is that they sharpen their weapons. So, if you don't know this by now, I love movies. So I watch a lot of TV, I watch a lot of movies, a lot of shows, and I have noticed that in a good action movie, like if you're watching a really, really good action movie, there'll come a time in the movie where the hero, goes somewhere, goes somewhere, and he will almost have this downtime, for lack of a better term, like this time where there's no action going on and it's some downtime before the final fight scene. Like there's something big that they have to do, and before that time there's this time when they're not really doing anything. Well, at least it looks like they're not really doing anything, but they are, because in this downtime many of them will be sharpening, cleaning, arranging their weapons. They'll often be sharpening knives, dismantling their guns, those big guns. They'll break them up into pieces. They'll clean them, reassemble them, all those things. They'll open up all their infantry drawers, and you get to see like, whoa, this guy is, he's packing, like he's got everything he needs to win this fight. During that downtime, they might even set up a few booby traps or make sure that they can see their enemy coming from a specific spot, usually on higher ground, right? They are preparing for this fight, this battle, and making sure that they have every available resource arranged and properly put, properly practiced for their advantage. And my question to you is, how are you sharpening your weapons? We all have weapons. If you call yourself a famous warrior, if you're doing this thing that we call life, even if you don't call yourself a warrior, trust me, like you're fighting something. You are fighting something. So you might as well own it and call yourself a warrior and start doing some warrior-like things. And warriors sharpen their weapons. How are you sharpening your weapons? I said it earlier that sometimes a wilderness season feels like God has forgotten you. They say on the backside of the desert. Not really sure what that means, but they say it. Or maybe it feels like, others are moving forward. They're advancing, they're progressing, they're getting married, they're getting jobs, they're getting promotions, they're buying cars, they're building, they're doing all these things, and you are just stuck. It feels like you're not growing. It feels like you're not moving. That sounds like downtime to me. That sounds like that part in the good action movie where it seems like the hero isn't doing anything, but they're really preparing for their big fight. What are you doing with your downtime? If you don't check your weapons, if you don't sharpen them, clean them, and you don't practice using them, you will not be ready when your big fight scene comes. And trust and believe that fight scene is coming. In fact, you will have several. There will be a part 1 and a part 2 and you will have several fight scenes that you have to prepare for. But trust and believe that the big fight scene is coming. It is coming. If you don't assess your environment and figure out which direction do I think my enemy might be coming from? Where is higher ground? How can I get myself to higher ground so that I can see them coming before they even see where I am? If you're not doing all those things, you will not be ready for your fight scene. You will not. And you will be taken out or you will be injured in a manner that you should not have been injured had you been preparing. So, I'll ask you again, what are you doing with your downtime? That time that it feels like you're stuck. That time that it feels like you're wasting time. That time that it feels like you're going backwards instead of forward. How are you using that time? Use your wilderness season to sharpen your weapons because you won't be able to do it when the battle kicks back up again. You can't be in the fight trying to sharpen your weapon. You can't be in the fight trying to load your gun. You can't. You can't be in the fight and you're out of ammo and you forgot to put the extra ammo in your pocket. You just can't. No good action movie has the hero doing that. The hero has backup. He has the pockets, the pants with the pockets, and in the pockets is the backup ammo. And when he's out, he reloads. He's never out. He's never completely out. Even when he's hit, even when it looks like he's been beaten up, he has a trick, another trick that the enemy didn't think of up his sleeve because he was preparing to win this battle. Are you preparing? I want to end and leave you with the verse that I started with in the beginning. The one that I told you to put up on a shelf and just keep. We're back at that verse. And it is my parting word of encouragement to you with my paraphrase to it, okay? So it's James 1:2-4, like we said in the beginning. My fellow famous warriors, when it seems as though you are in a dry wilderness season, see it as an invaluable opportunity to experience the greatest joy that you can. For you know that when your faith is tested, it will stir up your power of endurance. And as your endurance grows even stronger, it will release perfection into every part of your being until nothing is missing and nothing is lacking. The truth is that if we are not in a wilderness season right now, we know someone who is, or we will be in one in the near future. So I hope that this has encouraged you. If it has, please let us know about it in the comments below and share it with a friend who may need to be encouraged too. Warriors must go through the wilderness to become fully equipped to fight. Our chance to fight is a privilege, one that we shouldn't take lightly or for granted. And you are definitely worth the fight.